Blessings. Appointed Times Ministry welcomes you. We want you to join us as we unveil Bible prophecy through current world events. Jesus warned how the world would look before he returned. He warned that chaos, destruction, insecurity, and peril would become the new norm. Everything in the world seems to be falling apart. But in reality, it's that everything's falling right into place. The times and the seasons are ripe for the gathering of believers. Jesus is coming soon for his bride. We must stand firm in the faith so that when he returns, he can find us dressed and in our right mind ready to meet him. Jesus said, "And you will hear of wars and threats of wars. But don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come."
Today, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine is getting stronger as troops inch forward into Russia. The surprise cross-border incursion marks the first time since World War II that a foreign army has been fighting inside Russia. CBS's Ian Lee is near the front lines.
This is the tip of Ukraine's spear into Russia. Elite forces probe ahead and disrupt Russian reinforcements. Here, Ukrainian troops ambush several soldiers. Surrender and come out, they command, capturing some of them. Kyiv's surprise attack is now in its second week, yet Moscow remains off balance, scrambling to blunt the advance. Yesterday, the Ukrainian military says it hit another vital bridge in Russia's Kursk region. The invasion is turning nearby Ukrainian cities into hives of military activity. The regional capital, Sumy, is a prime target for Russian retaliation. Drones and missiles now target it on a daily basis, like this strike yesterday. Ukraine says a Russian cruise missile hit this parking lot, injuring 2 people, but it could have been a lot worse. Behind me is a busy supermarket, and right next door are people's homes.
Right now, Ukraine and Russia are urging residents to evacuate from areas where heavy fighting is underway. This morning, Ukrainian troops are pushing deeper into Russia, while Moscow is making advancements to a key military hub in eastern Ukraine. Sunday, Ukrainian forces say they blew up a second strategically significant bridge in the Kursk. As many as 5,000 Ukrainian soldiers are taking part in the incursion into Russian territory that began almost 2 weeks ago.
Following hours of meetings with Israel's president, prime minister, and defense minister, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Israel has agreed to the current proposal for a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza. Now he's calling on Hamas to do the same.
The next important step is for Hamas to say yes, and then in the coming days for all of the expert negotiators to get together to work on clear understandings on implementing the agreement.
Now the issue remains of how to implement the deal, and there are serious disagreements between Hamas and Israel. One includes Hamas calling for an immediate ceasefire and withdrawal of Israeli forces. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants a total victory, meaning the IDF would continue fighting in the Gaza Strip until Hamas is no longer seen as a threat in the region. There are major concerns in the region that if an agreement is not reached, it could lead to Iran or proxy Hezbollah attacking Israel.
There is, I think, a real sense of urgency here, across the region, on the need to get this over the finish line.
Meanwhile, Hamas taking responsibility for an explosion overnight in Tel Aviv. The man killed was a bomber whose explosive device detonated early before he reached a more populated part of the city.
What's most crucial now is that everyone refrain from taking any actions that could fuel further conflict. This is a decisive moment, probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire, and to put everyone on a better path to enduring peace and security.
1 Thessalonians 5:3. when people are saying, "Everything is peaceful and secure," then disaster will fall on them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begin, and there will be no escape. Whether this sudden destruction that comes upon them is inferring a nuclear war, the rapture, or some sort of judgment, we can rest assured that true believers won't be a part of this coming destruction. Let's continue to pray for Israel and for the rest of the world to know Jesus, the author of true peace and everlasting life. May God send His divine protection upon every one of you in these perilous times.
Проснулись от сильных толчков, даже не успели толком одеться, сразу выбежали вниз.
Здесь на мосту через реку Кабеку визуально выпал слой пепла около 2-3 миллиметров. Видно, что идет дальше теплопад. Запах.
We're tracking the tropics this morning. At least 3 people died due to Hurricane Ernesto as the storm picks up strength as it heads further out to the northeastern Atlantic. Take a look at your screen. This is the impact that Hurricane Ernesto is having on the Outer Banks. This house collapsed due to powerful swells created by the storm. A man also drowned trying to save some children that were caught in a rip current, and officials are warning beachgoers to be aware of rip currents when red flags are flying on the beach.
If I knew there was a drowning, I would have spent less time in the water for sure, and I probably would have been more careful. It was picking me up and throwing me around, and I feel like I'm a good swimmer, and I'm still getting thrown around out there.
Ernesto is also causing large waves in Virginia Beach. People are being advised to stay out of the water because of the National Weather Service saying that even the best swimmers can be swept away by rip currents. Closer to home, a man was killed after a tree fell on his truck during a storm yesterday evening. This was in Henrico County. Officers say they got several calls about storm damages, leading them to the man in his truck. We're told that the man was dead by the time crews arrived. Neighbors say that the tree that fell has been a concern for at least a year, and they've been pleading for something to be done about it.
It's been leaning over the road for at least a year. I've called the county and I never got a call back, got brushed off, and didn't know what else to do. I don't know the people that live on the property, so it's just a shame that it happened.
2 Timothy 3 verses 1 through 5 says, "Remember this, there are some terrible times coming in the last days. People will love only themselves and money. They will be proud and boast about themselves. They will abuse others with insults. They will not obey their parents. They will be ungrateful and against all that is pleasing to God. They will have no love for others and will refuse to forgive anyone. They will talk about others to hurt them and will have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. People will turn against their friends. They will do foolish things without thinking and will be so proud of themselves. Instead of loving God, they will love pleasure. They will go on pretending to be devoted to God, but they will refuse to let that devotion change the way they live. Stay away from these people. Death, chaos, destruction. This is what we're seeing in our times.
First at 5 on your news leader, new video shedding light on the moments leading up to an officer-involved shooting. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Skurlock.
And I'm Greg Hurst. This all unfolded Monday afternoon in Frazier. Tonight, one man is behind bars and at least two more are on the run. WREG's Jessica Knox has the latest.
Your news leader obtained new surveillance video. Take a look. Just before 5 Monday evening, you can see a man in a red shirt standing by a red Honda at the EZ shop on Frazier Boulevard. He's talking to another man in a navy blue hoodie. Then you see a man in a white shirt runs up with a gun. Seconds later, 3 men point a gun at the victim's head, while a 4th man searches the victim's pockets.
I don't even go to the gas station. Every time I go through there, I pass it because it's always somebody there.
The victim tried to defend himself, but moments later you can see the man in the white shirt tried to fire his weapon. That's when all 4 suspects rush into the white Ford sedan with a partial Tennessee tag of BRT. Now watch. A MPD squad car is seen in the top left corner, witnessing the incident and immediately trying to get the white Ford to stop. Officers say next, 2 of the guys jumped out of the car and ran into a neighborhood about 1.5 miles away from the gas station. Police ran after them. Memphis police are still investigating but say one officer fired a shot at one of the 2 suspects.
Baltimore police are investigating a mass shooting in Baltimore after 8 people were shot, 1 of them killed, and police say they found multiple firearms there on scene. Olivia Dance with our Sinclair sister station is live there for us with more on the scene and what's happening.
We haven't received any updates from police since last night, but I want to show you what the scene looks like this morning. There's still several police officers here. Of course, the crime scene tape up as well. This is Caroline and Hoffman Park. And then if we zoom in further to where that police officer is in the distance, you can see several chairs, some of them knocked over. We've also been seeing police officers walking around that area this morning. Now, the shooting happened just after 8 last night. Once on the scene, officers found multiple victims, several men and 1 woman, all suffering from gunshot wounds. They also found multiple firearms. Police confirm there are 8 total victims. One of the victims, a 36-year-old man, was killed in the shooting. Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley was here on the scene last night and spoke with media about the investigation.
Well, there's a gathering over on Spring Street, and at some point, it looks like multiple people opened fire, and we end up with 8 people shot and 1 deceased.
Time is running out. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man can come to the Father except through Christ. We don't know when our appointed time to leave this earth will be. Keep yourselves ready to see the Lord at all times. Put on the full armor of God daily and fight the good fight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Blessings to you and your families.